Hello, comrades. Libertarians like to tell me that capitalism is the free exchange of services and products or commodities. There are also various other definitions of what capitalism is, and in this video I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about what capitalism actually is, because most of these definitions are, if not completely incorrect, at least they leave out very significant things. They're too vague, too simplistic, or too one-sided, and they don't accurately represent what capitalism actually is. The most absurd one to me is the libertarian idea that capitalism is just the free exchange of commodities and services, because that's nothing. That doesn't define anything. I mean, the free exchange of commodities and products and services, I mean, technically that could even happen in communism. Free exchange has been happening since the beginning of trade. I mean, way before money was ever invented. Even before feudalism, and I'm sure we can all agree that feudalism was not capitalism. But free trade is way older than that. When people trade services, and the classic example that libertarians give is this idea that, okay, Bob has like a bunch of apples, Joe has a bunch of milk, and then they change or trade those with each other. And that's supposed to be like an accurate representation of what capitalism is. I mean, that's barter. That's not even modern trade by any means. Stuff like that went down in like the pre-feudal tribal societies, like between the Celtic tribes and the Romans. I mean, that's not capitalism. Then there's this idea that which is pretty common, that capitalism is like free, like the ownership of, well, some of the typical definitions, which are also way too vague or simple, are like that capitalism is a system of free enterprise, or it's a system of private ownership of the means of production, or it's free trade, and all of those are, I guess, partially correct. But even the idea that capitalism is just the private ownership of the means of production is not really accurate, because there was already private ownership of the means of production immediately when immediately when private property even emerged. There was immediately private ownership of the means of production. In slave societies, the slave owners and peasants could own means of production. In feudalism, the nobles and the manufacturers and the peasants could own means of production privately. So that's not a good definition either. So what is capitalism actually? Well, what is a capitalist? A capitalist is, and this is, I looked at some dictionary definitions of what a capitalist is, and they actually get this right, at least most of the time, that capitalist is a person who owns the means of production. Although they should also say that a capitalist has to employ someone, because if you just own the means of production, that doesn't yet make you a capitalist. You also have to employ someone. If you are a peasant who only owns his own stuff, then you're not necessarily a capitalist. So capitalism is a system where ownership of capital makes money, basically. It's a system where the owners of the means of production, the capitalists, employ other people and extract value from the labor of those other people. And another element which should be included in the definition is that the products are not made for use directly, they're made directly for sale. Although of course they need to have some use, otherwise people would never buy them. But in feudalism and prior to that, people almost exclusively made stuff for their personal use. I mean, trade was relatively rare, but in capitalism, products are definitely made for sale. People don't make stuff at work and then use them themselves. They make them and then they get a wage, and those products are made to be sold. And the way that the capitalist can realize the value that he extracts from the workers is by selling the products. If the products don't get sold, then the value is not realized and he doesn't make any money, obviously. So, in other words, capitalism is a system where means of productions are owned privately by individuals called capitalists who employ other people and exploit them, and where products are made to be sold and not directly to be used. That is how I would define it. Another classic thing that libertarians say, which I just find so humorous, is when they say that the markets allocate resources more rationally than any other system. They say that socialism doesn't work because planning cannot rationally allocate resources. First of all, the markets are like nature. They don't have a consciousness. Like nature, the laws of nature and laws of biology work in certain ways, but there's no rationality behind it unless you believe in God or something. But unless you think the market is a god, then you shouldn't think that there is any rationality behind it. The laws of the market are not rationally planned. So basically what libertarians are saying is that planning things with actual rationality is irrational, and relying on this irrational system, which literally has no rationality of any kind, that's somehow more rational. You can immediately see how idiotic this is, because some people might be persuaded to believe them at first, but you can immediately see how this argument falls apart when you realize that about half of the food that is produced on the planet is wasted, although we still have very substantial starvation. In other words, the food is not meant to be eaten, the food is meant to be sold. But because these poor starving people don't have any money, they can starve. They deserve to starve according to the profit motive, according to the logic of the market. And that's supposed to be somehow rational, although any sane human being would just see that we should just take this excess food and give it to these people, these starving people. Of course, that would be going against the profit motive, but that would be the obvious rational thing to do. But yeah, that's that for this video. I just wanted to talk a little bit about what capitalism is and stuff. I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.